Bikram yoga versus Barkan hot yoga. One question I get all the time, don't you teach the same poses? How are you different? One difference is that I added poses. The second question I get is why. So let's talk about why I changed it up, the method to my madness. So first off, I definitely consider myself part of the same lineage. Bikram was my teacher. Bikram's teacher was Ghosh. Ghosh was mainly responsible for creating the style of Hatha yoga. And Ghosh's guru and older brother was Paramahansa Yogananda, who definitely taught asana, but that wasn't his specialty. He was teaching more of the spiritual side of yoga, the meditation side of yoga. Ghosh is the one that created this very physical style of Hatha yoga we now know as hot yoga. If you want to continue to learn all about hot yoga, the Bikram world and the Barkan world, flows, factoids, make sure to hit the subscribe button and the like button. Any questions you have, put them down below. I'm happy to get back to you. And for those of you that are new to the channel, I was Bikram's most senior teacher for over 18 years. And Paramahansa Yogananda was my guru. Now there's another style of yoga that I talk about a lot of times on this channel, Krishnamacharya. He had two very popular students, Iyengar and Pattabhi Jois, who created his version of Ashtanga yoga. They both were of the same lineage, but had a different approach. And that parallels Bikram and I. So Bikram and I teach the same postures. We're from the same lineage, but I have a different approach. One of the first things I saw that was missing in Bikram's 26-2 sequence, that's what really constitutes Bikram yoga. 26 postures, 2 breathing exercises, was a lack of upper body strength. Now in Bikram's advanced class, he starts the class with Sun Salutation, where he does push-ups. The yoga push-up is known as chaturanga. So I wanted to immediately include upper body strength or chaturangas by doing Sun Salutations. Back to Bikram's advanced class, he starts his class with a Sun Salutation. It's not an advanced sequence. So that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to start my class with a little more, which brings us to the second reason I wanted to get more cardio. By doing Sun Salutations, we're getting more cardiovascular workout. And by honoring Bikram's Sun Salutation, I do a double chaturanga. A while back, I did a video on different Sun Salutations. Check it out after you watch this one. But let's go back to one of the reasons why I wanted to change it up. I was never subjected to the 26-2 Bikram sequence, even though I taught it for over 20 years, only because I was doing Bikram's 91 Posture Advanced class 3 months into my practice back in 1981, where we had a lot more upper body strength with chaturangas and handstands and tiger pose. But those postures are not included in the 26-2. So that's where I saw there was something missing. And the other thing is more of a conceptual idea that if you're just doing the 26-2 sequence, the Bikram class, I believe you'll get strong and you'll get flexible and it's a great sequence. But if that's all you're doing, a different type of rigidity will set in, especially if you're just doing those poses and that's it. And back to the 26-2 Bikram flow, if that's all you're doing in your exercise world, not only are you limiting yourself in your range of motion, but if you're doing the same thing every day, the body gets complacent. So in the bodybuilding world, you're always changing it up. You never want to do the same routine twice, or you want to shift it, or you want to do different routines all the time to shock the body. And that's why I'd like to bring in different poses. If you're interested in becoming a Barkan Method hot yoga teacher, we have an online course and we have live trainings. In 2025, you got Costa Rica, Iceland, Fort Lauderdale. I put links in the description below. We'd love to have you join the family. And this brings us to another change that I had in the Barkan world.
Man, the plans have been changed!
And that is triangle pose. If you're just doing the triangle pose in the Bikram series, which is a 90-degree angle triangle pose, which I love and which I continue to teach to this day, and that's all you're doing, you're just going in that one direction. Now I was introduced to revolving triangle from a different style of yoga. When we go in the other direction, we take the spine in the other direction, we're increasing our range of motion, which is going to be a lot better for the body. Plus, we're not just limiting you to one direction, taking it in the other direction. Revolving triangle was one of the first things I included when I created the Barkan series. Another thing I saw happening in the Bikram world, his beginning class and his advanced class are so polar. Meaning, you don't just get better in the 26-2 posture class and then take the advanced class. You have to have an affinity for range of motion, flexibility, and strength to even try the advanced class. The advanced class was too big of a jump. Bikram never created an intermediate class. In the Barkan method, I created 3 classes. I have my basic hot yoga class, I have my advanced class, but I also have the Barkan method hot Vinyasa class. And in the Hot Vinyasa, the Barkan Method Hot Vinyasa class, we do a lot more chaturangas, we do a lot more upper body strength, and we move a lot faster, therefore creating more of a cardiovascular benefit. So the first 35 minutes, In the Barkan Method Hot Vinyasa class, we're moving continuously, and then we get to the balancing poses, which are shared both in the Bikram world and the Barkan world. Even though I still consider myself part of our lineage, when I started representing Bikram on the Yoga Journal circuit and all the different conferences, Omega had conferences, I was introduced to other styles of yoga, especially the Vinyasa format, and I loved it.
This is great! This is great!
So here I am in Downward Dog, which we don't do in the Bikram Vishnu Ghosh world, and I said to myself, how can I adopt this particular format of Sun Salutations, Upward Dog, Downward Dog, when I really don't know the style of yoga? And that's when the light bulb went off, and I said, instead of stepping up from Downward Dog into one of the postures that I don't know, we step up into Downward Dog from a posture that I do know. I did a video a while back on how the Barkan Method Hot Vinyasa class came about. Check it out after you watch this one. So I added more cardiovascular workout with Sun Salutation, and in the Vinyasa class we do Salute to the God and Goddesses, also part of our lineage from Bikram and Vishnu Ghosh's advanced class. Added more upper body strength with multiple chaturangas. And now when we get to the floor poses, there is another thing that I believe was missing in the Bikram world, especially because my hips were always tight, and that are hip openers. Now once again, in the Bikram advanced class, we're doing a lot of hip openers, but not the 26 and 2. So when we get to the floor, instead of going right to Pavanamuktasana, which is wind moving pose, I do Supta Vajrasana, which is reclining gentle pose. It's an external rotation of the hips. Then I throw in Pavanamuktasana because I still think it's a great pose to help the digestive system. But then I added a few more hip openers, like foot to knee pose. That's a posture actually that Emmy Cleaves and I were teaching. Back when I was still a Bikram teacher, I started to add that in the Bikram flow, and Emmy Cleaves was adding that in the advanced class. It's not part of our lineage, but a great pose to get into the piriformis underneath the glute. And then I brought in foot to knee pose 2, which is an internal rotation of the hip. Now we're taking the hip in another direction to open up and also help to stretch the IT band, which can be very tight for a lot of people. And then I put in Happy Baby, another great hip opener. So once again, I added more cardiovascular, more upper body strength, taking the spine in the other direction, revolving triangle, hip openers on the floor. Now we got to go back to the dilemma. I want to continue to do postures like standing bow and standing hit to knee on a regular basis, but I also want to change up the sequence. So here's where the light bulb came off. The first part of the class, almost the first hour of the class, we're doing the same routine the same way, so we can measure results. The only way you're going to get better in standing bow and standing hit to knee, for example, is if you're doing it on a regular basis, 4, 5, 6 times a week. But when we get to the floor poses after the hip openers that I described, now I created 4 different sequences to do. I call day 1, day 2, day 3, and day 4. Day 1, we do the Cobra series. Cobra, locust, full locust, bow. Then we do leg stretching, which is in the hot yoga world, head to knee and stretching pose. Then I do spine twist, and we finish with Kapalabhati. Day 2, I call the Diamond series. We do Supta Vajrasana, which you know in the hot yoga world is fixed firm, half tortoise, camel, rabbit. We do the leg stretching again, and then I add pigeon, which is another great hip opener, by the way. That's something that's not in the Bikram flow, but definitely in Bikram's advanced class. Day 3, we get into even more hip openers. I do a posture we call 90-90. There's no real Sanskrit word for that particular pose. You could call it maybe Dviyanga, 2-angle pose. Then we do Gomukhasana, which is cow face, which is also once again in Bikram and Vishnu Ghosh's advanced class. Then I add in spine twist, which is also a hip opener, and pigeon once again, which goes deep into the hips and the pelvic area. Day 4 is backbend day. I love day 4 because we do Cobra, we skip locust, go right to full locust. Bow, I do 3 camels, then a rabbit pose, and then we do bridge, also in the Bikram's advanced and Vishnu Ghosh's advanced class, with an optional wheel, chakrasana. Other styles of yoga call it upward bow. Return to our side, spine twist, Kapalabhati. So doing different sequences on the different days. It's really the teacher's choice. They choose what sequence they want to do at the end of each class in the Barkan Method world, is more in line with Vishnu Ghosh's concept, not Bikram's concept, which is, once again, they had a different approach. Bikram and Vishnu Ghosh also had a different approach. Vishnu Ghosh didn't teach the same poses the same way to everybody. He would prescribe sequences for people on whatever they needed. Some needed hip openers, some needed back bends, and so on and so on. So I found in my 44-year career, next month will be 44 years, I started in 1981, adding upper body strength, adding cardiovascular, taking the spine in different directions, changing it up. However, still doing some postures on a daily basis, continues to honor the lineage. By changing up, you're going to see dramatic results. So that's our episode for today. Thank you so much for watching. If you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing, hit the notification bell. Any questions or comments, put them down below. I get to all the comments. I'm happy to get back to you, and I will see you at the next video. Bye, everyone.